I'm glad you're here. This is Michael Didier speaking. We are doing Genesis 2 today. Oh my goodness, this is a wonderful class. I hope people will take the time to listen to this class. You know, these first three chapters of Genesis really are a foundation for understanding all of Yehovah's word. If we do not get this foundation right, it's going to screw up all of our thinking throughout the Torah. The man and his woman are going to be created today. Oh, it's so interesting, the things that I have found. Even this week, I found some things that are new to me. Well, let's pray. Father, we have learned lies, worthless and unprofitable things. They're so ingrained in our life, we can't even see the truth. Father, give us Yehovah, Spirit, Elohim, give us Ruach, ears, Ruach, eyes, and a Ruach heart to understand the message. We can't do it without you. Please help us, free us from the lies that we have learned. We love you so much. Well, let's talk about what we did last week. Here it is. We saw in the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth. Who created it? Elohim created it. And in the next verse, we're going to see it's Spirit, Elohim, who created the heavens and the earth. Now, we talked about this at length last week. We had this foolishness where it talks about, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Oh my goodness. You know what? This is where people want to go. This is what they want to hang their head on. Foolish, foolish people. Don't hang your hat on a perversion in Torah. Look at the very next verse. So Elohim created the man in his own image. Folks, this is not rocket science. If there's something in the Torah that doesn't agree with the rest of Torah, you can't build on it. We looked last week at all those verses that talk about Elohim creating the man. But I want to stay on this idea up here. Spirit, Elohim. This is what we talked about last week, the creation of the heavens and the earth. What did we see? We saw that it was Spirit, Elohim. Look at it, it says the earth was desolate and in confusion. They use in New King James, without form. Okay, how should I say? To expound on that, I put the earth, it was desolate and in confusion, in ruin, and darkness was on the face of the deep. You know what? That's kind of where we're at right now. Desolate and in confusion and in darkness. But Yehovah is hovering over the face of the waters. It says at the end of this verse, the face of the Shamayim. Ooh, remember that has some prophetic understandings for it as well. Because the waters of this world is the people of this world, prophetically speaking. The strength of this world, Yehovah is hovering over the world. And the very next thing that he did was he separated the light from the dark. He's doing that right now, separating the light from the dark. Some of you are seeing that the lights are beginning to come on. It's Yehovah's Spirit that does that in you, separating the light from the dark, giving you eyes to see, ears to hear, and a heart to understand. It goes on. It says he divided the waters from the waters. So here he is, hovering over the face of the waters. Now he's going to divide the waters from the waters. And he's going to create in the middle of it heavens. Heavens is where the birds are going to fly. Eventually, they're not created yet. Waters from the waters. Some waters are on the earth. Some waters are in the heavens. But it's got the sky in between. Then, from the waters that were below the heavens, it says, he made land and divided the waters. He divided the water from the waters, the dry land in the midst of the waters, and he created vegetation. Then, well, here, let's do this. This is something that I couldn't find last week. Oh, before I do that, there's so many things that I wanted to tell you. Remember last week I hesitated, I was saying something, and then I distracted myself and I couldn't get back to it. I remembered later what it was. And it has to do with what we're looking at right here. The earth was desolate and in confusion, and darkness was over the face of the earth. I was starting to tell you that we don't have to take anything in Torah by faith. You know how we always do it. Well, I don't know how it works. We just got to believe it. Brother, don't you know? You know what? Yehovah's ways make sense. It all fits together like a puzzle when we get it right. Line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. It will all fit together. It makes sense. Don't do what people do. You know, sometimes we think, oh, in the old days, don't you know, they were mystical. They followed spirituality and, what's the word I want to look for? Believing in Santa Clauses and all those kinds of things. You know, we do exactly the same thing in this day and age. We do. We have tons of, it's almost like believing in mythology. We say it was for the old days, but we are just as bad in some of the things that we believe. Again, Yehovah's word makes sense when we get it right. But we were talking about the creation. And this is the thing that I wanted to show you from last week. I guess I just need to open this up. You can hit this little E button and it will open up everything in your editor's mode right here. And this is what I wanted to show you. He created day one, the light. Separated the light from the darkness. Day two, he created the waters were already there, but he divided the waters from the waters, and he put sky in the middle of it, the heavens. He created the dry land, the sea, and the vegetation, all the lowest forms of organic life. Now, in day four, he's going to put the luminaries, the sun, the moon, the stars, into the heavens. Day five, he's going to put the fish in the sea and the fowl in the air. And finally, on day six, he did the land creatures. Remember, behemoth kind and bug kind. And finally, he finished with humankind. He created the man and his woman. And he said they were both very good. But that's only 6 days. This next chapter, and I could have probably gone to this, perhaps I should have gone to this, but I've got a lot to say about the seventh day. So perhaps it was good that we'd stopped where we did last week. But I want to pick up here. It says, thus the heavens and the earth and all the hosts of them were finished. All their hosts is what it says. Their hosts. All their hosts. Not all the hosts, all their hosts. What is the host for the heavens and the earth? Well, the heavens host is the birds. The earth's host is the fish, the bugs, the behemoth, and the man and his woman. They're the host. It was finished. And on the seventh day, Elohim ended his work, which he had done. And he rested on the seventh day from all his work, which he had done. This is the start of the Sabbath. And Yehovah blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because in it he rested from all his work which Elohim had created and made. Again, there it is, that Elohim had created and made. Folks, close your New Testament. They'll have you believe that it's Yeshua who's creating things. Oh, my goodness. Talk about worship and serving the creature instead of the creator. We're going to take a look at that in just a moment. In fact, maybe we're going to take a look at it right now. Looks like we might be going that direction. Here's my notes. Here, in the very functioning of the planets, we see evidence of order and design. The cycle of the sun gives us a division of the day and the night. The cycle of the moon gives us the divisions of months. And a combination of both, the sun and the moon, gives us the division in years. When the Aviv is ready, the year begins with the new moon, like clockwork, interrelated cycles, declaring the orderly nature of the Creator. You know, one thing that used to bug my wife, she hated that I was a man of systems. I like systems. They create order in my life. And when I have order in my life, my mind is at rest and I can see more things. She, on the other hand, was so stinking random. Drove me nuts. She would try to drive someplace without a map. Oh, it's somewhere up there. Please ask for directions. Elohim is an Elohim of order. I want to go to Romans. Here it is. This is what I was talking about. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. He's a God of order. We look at our hand, our eyes, our organs, and we can see him. This doesn't happen by accident. But it says, because although they knew Elohim, they did not glorify him as Elohim, nor were thankful, but became futile in their thoughts, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Professing to be wise, they became fools and changed. Look at this. Let me move it up. And changed the glory of an incorruptible Elohim into an image made like corruptible man, Yeshua. We want to make Yeshua Elohim. That's what we're talking about right here. Change the glory of an incorruptible Elohim, Ruach Elohim. Omnipresent, omnipotent, into a man. Oh, and we developed such a good story. Folks, it's a lie. Close that damn New Testament and start learning Yehovah's word. And change the glory of an incorruptible Elohim into the image made like corruptible man and birds and four-footed creatures and creeping things. Therefore Elohim gave them over to uncleanliness, to the lusts of their heart, to dishonor their bodies among themselves, and changed the truth of Elohim for a lie, worshipped and served the creature rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. This is what we're doing. We're worshiping and serving the creature, Yeshua. Shame on us. Don't go there. It's going to get you killed. You shall have no other Elohim existing before my face, he says. We have accepted lies. We don't even know the depth of the lies that we have received. Back to the Sabbath. But the Sabbath is not tied to either. Remember, we were talking about the days and the years that the moon and the sun give us. Does it say anything about weeks? No, none whatsoever. The Sabbath was not established by Yehovah until he had finished his work. It is not until the 6 days of creation were complete that the Creator set apart the seventh day as a special time of rest. 6-1, 6-1, 6-1. We're going to see it's the rhythm of the Father. I put together, because we've learned so many lies, a link here called Sabbath Debunked. I'm not sure I want to go through it all today, but I want to touch maybe on some high points. It's on my blog, and I'll show you where you can find it, just in case you're interested. It's here underneath Hebrew calendar. Here it is right here, Hebrew calendar and lunar Sabbath. Okay? 6 days. We've got a large number of people. I meet them regularly on Facebook. They contact me, not so much on my blog, but now and then. People who are keeping what they call this lunar Sabbath. What are they doing? They're taking the new moon each month and they're using it as the start of a brand new week. They figure they're starting a new month, so we're going to start a new week also. So instead of the rhythm that Yehovah created at creation, which has continued on for these 6,000 years, 6-1, 6-1, 6-1, 6-1, they are perverting this day of rest that Yehovah set apart. They have a new moon, and that first day, like our new day, is a Sabbath. I keep the new moon as a Sabbath. It was Tuesday this week, as I recall, because we didn't see the new moon on Sunday. But they then create that as a Sabbath. And then start counting. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 6 days, and then they have a day of rest, a Sabbath on the 8th day of the month. Then they do it again. They count 6, and they have another Sabbath on the 15th. That's their weekly Sabbath. They do the same for the 22nd and also for the 29th. But the new moon only comes out, and I think I've got that in here. Let's see where it is. I'm surprised I didn't include it in this. The new moon, or the months from lunar Sabbath, from the new moon to new moon is 29 and a half days. 29.5 something, something, something. So that means that some months we have 29 days and some months we have 30 days. Well, what does that do to their calendar? We had 6-1, 6-1, 6-1, 6-1 to the 29th, but now on the 29th, if it's a 29-day month, they got a Sabbath. And because the next day is the first day of the month, now we got a Sabbath again. So we've got a double Sabbath, weekly Sabbath for these crazy people. If it's a 30-day month, now we're going to have a 1-day work week and then another Sabbath. So instead of 6-1, 6-1, 6-1, we get 6-1, 6-1, 6-1, 6-1, 1-1 on a 29-day month on a 30-day Well, how do you even do it? I can't even say it 1-1 because 1-1 I was saying Sabbath, Sabbath. But if you have a 1-day work week, it's 1-1-1. You follow me? One rest, 1 day of work, and another day of rest. That's our work week, a 1-day work week. Doesn't work, does it? Well, there's lots of reasons why this doesn't work. And if you will take the time to listen to what I have to say, you will see how this is just a corrupt idea. It doesn't fit in the scriptures at all. And I included some really fine links in here and some other things that we found in our studies here in my Sabbath study in past weeks. Let's go back. I put the Sabbath is a sign as to who Yehovah's people are. Yes, I put no one can be his and not keep the Sabbath. But you know what? Even to say that misleads people. Because does keeping the Sabbath make you his people? See, this is what most people think. They think if I keep the Sabbath, if I don't do Christmas, if I don't do Easter, if I do try to keep the feasts and I eat clean, that somehow I'm Yehovah's people. Or worse, I believe in Jesus. So now I'm Yehovah's people. Folks, you've been lied to. Yehovah gave his Sabbath to whom? The Egyptians? No, he gave his Sabbath to Israel's seed. Well, you know what? Most of us don't know who Israel's seed is because it gets translated as the children of Israel. Here's Exodus 31, and then we're going to go to the fourth commandment. Exodus 31 says this, therefore Israel's seed, aka and pervertedly known as the children of Israel, shall keep the Sabbath, to observe the Sabbath throughout their generations as a perpetual covenant. It is a sign between me and Israel's seed forever. For in 6 days Yehovah made the heavens and the earth, and on the seventh day he rested and was refreshed. That fits perfectly with what we're talking about right now, doesn't it? But now let's take a look at the commandment that he gave his Ezra men in Exodus 20 after we came out of Egypt. See, the point I'm trying to make here is unless you come out from the Elohim that you serve, I'm not talking to men, I'm not talking to women. Because women always serve their man. It's not about serving Yehovah. They serve their man. We're going to see that today. We're going to see it next week. Here he is. Fourth commandment. He says, remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. 6 days, thou, second person singular, shall labor and do thy work. But the seventh day is a Sabbath to Yehovah thy Elohim. In it thou shalt do no work, thou nor thy son. Okay, so the son can't be the thou, can he? Nor thy daughter. The daughter can't be the thou. Thy male servant, thy female servant, thy cattle, nor thy stranger. So this is the ger. So the ger can't be the thy either. the thou, who is within thy gates. For 6 days Yehovah made the heavens and the earth and the sea and all that's in them, and rested on the seventh. Therefore Yehovah blessed the Sabbath and hallowed it. Well, eventually we're going to talk about what is the sign. There is a sign. The Sabbath is a sign, but it's not the sign. There is a sign, which is the sign of the covenant that marks a man as Israel's seed. I'm going to have to just tell it to you because it's going to fit into the picture that we're going to see today in just a few moments. But as I said, Sabbath is only a sign. The sign of the covenant and the sign that marks a man as Israel's seed, the spiritually born man and heir of Abraham, is his circumcision and participation in the Passover, as codified in Genesis 12. He says, Genesis 17, which is all about the time of life. Oh my goodness. He says, this is my covenant, which you shall keep between me and you and your seed after you. The New King James usually says descendants. The King James says seed. But we don't understand what seed is. We assume certain things because we lack knowledge. But when we're talking about seed, you and your seed after you, we're not talking about ladies. We're talking about men. Look what it says, the very next word. Every male. Kol zakar. All male childs among you shall be circumcised, and you shall be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskin. And it shall be a sign of the covenant, the cutting. That's what berith means, cutting. The cutting between me and you. That's what Passover is all about. This is my covenant. We just kept the Passover in Exodus 13:12. 13, we're going out. He says, on this day you are going out in the month of Aviv. And it shall be when Yehovah brings you into the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, which he swore to your fathers to give you, a land flowing with milk and honey, that you shall keep this service in the month. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and on the seventh day there shall be a feast of Yehovah. Remember, the 7 days of unleavened bread begins with what? The Passover. No unleavened bread shall be seen among you, nor shall leaven be seen among you in your quarters. And you shall tell your son in that day, saying, this is done because of what Yehovah did for me when I came out of Egypt. It shall be a sign on your hand and a memorial between your eyes, that Yehovah's law may be in your mouth. For with a strong hand Yehovah has brought you out of Egypt. You shall therefore keep this ordinance in its season from year to year. This day starts with the Passover meal, in which we are joined in a covenant with the Creator and become His son and His people. We're talking about men. Now, I know that's long, but we're going to see how this fits together today. He goes on and he says, this is the history of the heavens and the earth when they were created. In the day that Yehovah Elohim made the heavens and the earth. Who made the heavens and the earth? Yehovah Elohim. This is the first time that Yehovah's name is used. Remember, before he was called Ruach Elohim. You can't see the Spirit Elohim. That's why he always comes in a cloud. These words, Yehovah Elohim, 2 words, are going to be used 19 times in the Torah. I think it's really interesting that 18 of the 19 times that it's used are in Genesis 2 and Genesis 3. Why? Yehovah Elohim. Oh, here, let me just give you the one time that's not in these 2 chapters. Remember, these 2 chapters, the time that he's using it as Yehovah Elohim, Yehovah, the lawmaker and judge. That's what we're talking about, lawmaker and judge. Yehovah, lawmaker and judge. The only other time it's used after the fall is right here when he's talking to Pharaoh. Moses is talking to Pharaoh. He says, so Moses said to him, as soon as I have gone out of the city, I will spread out my hands to Yehovah. The thunder will cease and there will be no more hail. Then you will know that the earth is Yehovah's. The earth is Yehovah's. Was it Yehovah's in the beginning, first and second chapter, and third chapter of Genesis? Yeah, it was. But as for you and your servants, your Avad men, I know that you will not yet fear Yehovah Elohim. Pharaoh thinks he's Elohim. Obama thinks he's Elohim. All these lawmakers and judges think there's something that they're not. Every other reference to Yehovah Elohim, the Lord, appears in the form of Yehovah Elohi. It usually says Yehovah Elohi is Elohim of. Elohim of. It would say Elohim of Abraham, Elohim of Jacob, Elohim of Michael Didier, Elohim of heaven, Elohim of. Well, here, let me just read it. Every other reference to Yehovah Elohim appears as Yehovah Elohi. Could it be that Yehovah is trying to make a point in these 2 chapters? Remember, these chapters set the tone for all of Yehovah's words given through Moses and his other prophets. And at this point in time, Genesis 2, Genesis 3, there's only one Elohim on the earth. So to call him Yehovah Elohim makes sense. I put at this point, there are no other Elohim except Yehovah. After chapter 3, there are other Elohim, and Yehovah is then referred to as Yehovah thy Elohim, Yehovah your Elohim, Yehovah my Elohim, Yehovah our Elohim, Yehovah their Elohim. Why? Because there's other Elohim on the earth, and he's only the Elohim of Israel. The men who have left the kingdom of their birth and made themselves wholly his. Well, this phrase, however, is never used in relation to a ger, to a male servant, an eved, or a woman. It is always used in relation to the Ezra, Israel's seed, like I said, aka and pervertedly known as the children of Israel. We saw it just now. Your Elohim, Yehovah thy Elohim. He gave us our commandments. Thou shalt work 6 days and rest 7, thou and thy son and thy daughter and thy maidservant and thy male servant, thy behemah and the ger who dwells with you. He didn't mention the woman, did he? We're going to see why in a moment. Before the day's out, hopefully. Let's continue. Verse 5. He says, before any plants of the field were on the earth, and before any herb of the field had grown, for Yehovah. Well, I guess I got to start. I'm starting in the middle of a sentence, aren't I? Let me start from 4. This is the history of the heavens and the earth, when they were created in the day that Yehovah Elohim made the heavens and the earth. Before any plant of the field in the earth, and before any herb of the field had grown, for Yehovah Elohim had not caused it to rain on the earth, and there was no man to till the ground. But a mist went up from the earth and watered the whole face of the ground. Isn't that interesting? It doesn't sound like we had rain in the antediluvian world. It sounds like we had mist coming up from the ground to water the ground. Ooh, what a glorious place to live. Wouldn't it be great if Yehovah were to do that for the millennial kingdom? Restore the earth back to its, shall I say, glory? Ooh, that would be really neat. Verse 7. And Yehovah Elohim formed man of the dust of the ground. Who formed the man? Yehovah Elohim. No our, no us. Yehovah Elohim formed, it says, man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living being. Well, man is what they put. But Yehovah didn't put it that way. He put it like this. In fact, let me pull this up. He said, and Yehovah Elohim formed the man. The man. Let me highlight that just so we make our point better. Made the man of the dust of the ground. The ground, here's the ground, the Adamah. He made Ha-Adam from Ha-Adamah and breathed, here's the breathed, Nafak, into his nostrils the Nashama of life, Kayi. But this is not Kayi, this is Kayim. Ooh, remember last week we were talking about the qualitative plural versus the quantitative plural? How come this doesn't just say breathes into his breath, breathes into his nostrils the breath of Kayi? That's the word, that's the root of this word right here, Kayi. There it is. Kayi. Kayi. But this is Kayim. Is he breathing into him lots of life? Or lots of lives? Or is he breathing into him something eternal? The big life. You see what I'm talking about? Man was created to live. No, the man. Let's get it right. The man was created to live forever. Mark my words. It says, and man became a living soul. A kayi la nefesh, a living soul. That's the same word, same root that comes from what we were talking about up here, life. Kayi. In fact, they do use the same word, but they're created differently. A living soul. This is the plural form of life. A noun, life. A living soul. I put this. This man is a spiritual man with Kayim, qualitative life. We were created as a spiritual man. We were created in Yehovah's image. The man was. Well, this is amazing, and I want to show you what I found just this week. He says, what is a man? Enosh. Enosh, here's the word. Enosh. A mortal. Hence a man. This is singular. Enoshim would be men, plural. But this is Enosh. What is Enosh? That you are mindful of him. And a son. That's what it says. A son of Adam. That you visit him. Listen now what it says in Psalms 8, 4, and 5. For you have made him a little lower than Elohim. A little lower than Elohim. Elohim plural. This is the qualitative Elohim. The one that he put the Kayim, the life, qualitative life into. But now look what it says. It says, and you have crowned him with glory and honor. What is man that you are mindful of him? And the Son of Man that you visit him. You have made him a little lower than Elohim. And you've crowned him with glory and honor. Well, when I saw this glory and honor, bells and whistles started clicking in my mind. Where have I seen glory and honor before? I know I've used it in my teaching. And it came to me, glory and honor and immortality, talking about the way that leads to life. Are you looking to live in a big house? Have a nice car? Have a good job? Lots of respect? Or are you living to find glory and honor and immortality? Look what it says now in Romans. And I'm not big on going to the New Testament, but now and then you find gems. But in accordance with your hardness and your impenitent heart, your hard and impenitent heart, you are treasuring up for yourselves wrath in the day of wrath and revelation of the righteous judgment of Elohim, who will render to each man, not one, man, according to his deeds. But eternal life to those who by patient continuance in doing good, seek for glory and honor and immortality. Did you hear that? How does a fallen man receive glory and honor and immortality? This is what we're talking about. Let's go back up here. It said, crowned him with glory and honor. We're talking about the man that Yehovah created back here. Genesis 7. This man was created with glory and honor. And he had immortality. All he had to do was obey Yehovah. But he had it. He had the Kayim life in him. That's the immortality. What did he say? On the day that you eat of the tree of knowledge and good and evil, you shall die. That's the day that he lost immortality, not the day that he went back to the dust. But see, we think flesh instead of spirit, and we can't see the truth. The time of life. I went and looked at that, the time of life. I really expected to see that word Kayim. I didn't. It was Kayi. But it doesn't matter. It's the time that the man comes to the Father, makes his covenant with him, and enters into life once again. It's the time that fallen man is restored. You know, it reminds me, do you remember Yeshua was talking about let the dead bury the dead? Sell everything you have, follow me. Let the dead bury the dead. Let me bury my father first. Let the dead bury the dead. Well, what a strange thing to say. Unless you understand that the whole world is nothing but walking dead men. Until they keep the Passover and come into the time of life, they're nothing but walking dead. And we're not talking about ladies at all. We're talking about men. In a sense, ladies are in a worse case. And all the men of the earth are already walking dead. Well, these are all things that we have to solve. Figure out, how does a woman become a woman known by Elohim? How does a man come back from his fallen state, from the walking dead of the earth? Right now we're looking at what? The creation of a man who has glory and honor and immortality. Oh my goodness, this is so amazing. I hope that you're understanding what I'm saying. On Facebook today, I said, bring your Ruach eyes, your Ruach ears, and your Ruach heart. Because the things that we have to talk about today are going to be difficult. most won't get it. Most can't get it because they've never turned from their ways to Yehovah's ways. Let me see what else I have here. Yeah, this is a flashback. Okay? We had the man and the woman being created in Genesis 26. But now, in Genesis 2, we're going to see the specifics. Remember, Yehovah often gives a big picture, then he breaks it down. Okay? This is what we're seeing. This is the breakdown. He's taking what he did in one verse, 126, and now he's breaking it up into whole chapters so he's creating the man and then his woman. How is man created in Yehovah's image? Are we talking about physical nature of Yehovah? He's spirit. Ruach Elohim. Well, how is a man created in his image? He's created as the spiritual man. The man who has Kayim, qualitative life in him. I have qualitative life in me. I have now kept the Passover for 8, maybe 9 years. I forget which one it is. But I've got the qualitative life in me. Let me continue. It says, Adam, Ha-Adam, was given the ability to think outside of his own experience, to put Yehovah's ways first in his life. Okay, this is what the spiritual man does. The spiritual man lives under the authority of a spiritual Elohim. A spirit Elohim. The spirit lawmaker and judge of the earth. To put Yehovah's ways first, Echad, in his life, and then given the responsibility to care for Yehovah's creation in the earth, the behemoth, the bugs, the fish, and his woman. Getting these first chapters right sets the tone for all of our future understandings in Torah. Genesis 8 says, and Yehovah Elohim planted a garden eastward in Eden. I think you'd say eastward, comma, in Eden. And there he put the man whom he had formed. Well, look, they got it right. The man, Ha-Adam. How come they call him man up there? How come the rest of this chapter they're going to call him or man, and not Ha-Adam? Is that definite article important? I think it is. I think it helps us sort things out. Where is Eden? Where is this garden? He says, Yehovah, this is the New King James, Yehovah Elohim planted a garden eastward in Eden. Eastward in Eden. And there he put the man whom he had formed. Eastward in Eden. Eastward. Eastward of what? Eastward, Carrie just whispered, where he's at. Eastward of where he's at. Here, the EB translation. I don't know what that is right offhand. And Yehovah planted a garden in Eden on the east and put there the man who he had formed. Okay, the east of what? And Yehovah planted a garden in Eden in the east. And there he put a man whom he had formed. Could west of Eden be the place where Yehovah had a temple or perhaps dwelt? And my note says, see note in verse 10. Okay, we're going to talk about that in a moment. where, if Eden is in the east, what's in the west? Would that be important? Verse 9. And out of the ground, Yehovah Elohim made every tree grow that was pleasant in the sight and good for food. The tree of life. Ooh, look at this, you guys. The tree of life. Here it is, the tree of life. Look at the word. That's the kayi with the plural on it again. The qualitative life. This is the tree of the qualitative life, the tree that helps you live forever. Do you think this is an accident? The tree of life was also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Oh, I guess I've got my note a little bit closer than I thought. Well, let's talk about the tree of life. It just shouldn't say verse 10 on that last note. It should say verse 9. Because here's what I wanted you to see. What is in the east? Remember, the garden was in the east, or Eden was in the east. It sounds like the garden is in Eden, and it is east of something. So what's in the west? Well, remember, precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. Let's look at Ezekiel, because Ezekiel gives us some very interesting things. I said, so where can we find the tree of life? 40 through 48 in Ezekiel is all about the millennial kingdom. The temple, Ezekiel's temple, and the things that we're going to do in that temple and how the earth is going to be divided in that time. Very interesting stuff. But look what it says here in 47. Then he brought me back to the door of the temple, and there was water flowing from under the threshold of the temple toward the east. Ooh, for the front of the temple faced east. Okay, that's the way it always faced. The water was flowing from under the right side of the temple, south of the altar. So we've got a river flowing, water flowing outside of the temple, from under the temple, on the east side. Now look what it says, Ezekiel 47:12. Along the banks of the river, on this side and that, will grow all kinds of trees for food. Their leaves will not wither, and their fruit will not fail. They will bear fruit every month, because their water flows from the sanctuary. So now here's the river. It's got trees growing on both sides of the river that provide food every month, fruit every month. Their fruit will be for food, and their leaves for medicine. Well, now look what it says in Revelation. Now, I don't like to use Revelation. Probably Revelation is the one book that has more truth in it than most in the New Testament. You can find many of the things in Revelation also in the Law and the Prophets. Now, Revelation's still going to have perversions in it, and I marked one of them in this particular verse. Look what he says. This is Revelation 22, 1 and 2. And he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding from the throne of Elohim. They put, and the Lamb added. In the middle of the street. And on either side of the river was the tree, it says the tree of life. Okay, the definite article is not there. Was tree life. Tree life, a tree. It says of life. It's, Greek. I took 2 years of Greek. I wish I had taken 2 years of Hebrew. They didn't offer it at Wheaton College. But this definite article is not here. This does not say a possessive life. So we've got to look at this differently. But we have the tree and we have life, which bore 12 fruits. Well, I think 12 fruits, look what it said up above. It talked about they bear fruit every month. Maybe that's what we're talking about, the 12 fruits, perhaps. 22 says, blessed are those who do his commandments, that they may have the right to the tree of life. This has the definite article in it this time, and may enter through the gates of the city. Isn't it interesting that this tree and the trees in Ezekiel both are on a river that is coming from the throne of Elohim? And here in Eden, we're talking about eastward in Eden is where this place was at. And Yehovah planted a garden eastward in Eden, in the east, in Eden. And there he put the man whom he had formed. This is where the man is going. He has access to the tree of life, Kayim, the qualitative life. Now the river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from there it parted and became 4 riverheads. Well, you know what? We could do studies on this. I didn't spend a whole lot of time on this. It says the whole land, the Havilah. It's got a different article with the Havilah, and it says where there is the gold, a definite article, gold. And then when the next verse 12, it says, and gold of the land is good. Doesn't say the definite articles. Oh, they leave them in, take them out. I don't know what's going on. It's the bdellium, it's the onyx stone are there. But we're talking about the second river, the third river, the fourth river. Fourth river is called Euphrates. But remember, this is antediluvian world. All these rivers have changed. So, where are these rivers now? I don't know. Does it matter? I don't really think it matters. Let's continue. 15. It says, then Yehovah Elohim took the man. They got it right again. The man. And put him in the garden of Eden. The garden in Eden. Yehovah took the man and put him in the garden of Eden and to tend and keep it. The man. And Yehovah commanded, listen, and Yehovah commanded the man, again, they got it right, saying, of every tree of the garden you may eat freely, but of the tree of knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat. For in the day that you eat it, you shall surely die. Is Yehovah a liar? Is it possible that we are ignorant and we don't understand his word fully? I'd say that has greater probability because I know Yehovah is not a liar. Who is the command given to? Of every tree of the garden you may eat freely, But of the tree of knowledge and good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day you eat it, you shall surely die. Okay, is he talking to the woman? No, she's not created yet, is she? He's by himself. I want you to notice as we go through this, does he ever talk to the woman? Does Yehovah ever talk to the man's woman? We're going to see. Man, the man, was created to live forever. We're going to see that what the man has, his woman gets. If he was created to live forever, and she's in him, she's going to live forever. Well, there's more things to learn than what we have been taught. And Yehovah said, it is not good for man to be alone. Now, I had a question about this, because when I looked at the Hebrew in this, remember, he's talking to the man in the last verse, 17 and 16, right? Telling him you can eat of any tree of the garden, but the tree of knowledge of good and evil you cannot eat. I think it should read more like this. And Yehovah Elohim said to the man, it is not good that you exist separate, alone. I will make, now here it says, it uses the wrong verb tense or pronoun. I will make for him an aid suitable. I guess you could say I'll make for, it would have a different word for you. I will make for him an aid suitable. An etzer kenegdo. An etzer kenegdo. He's getting ready to make something for the man so that he does not exist separate in the world. Was man created to be, what is the term? An asexual reproduction? I wonder. To be alone, to exist alone. You know, a spiritual man can give birth to spiritual men. That's what Isaiah 54 is all about. Who bears the spiritual son? Ladies don't bear spiritual sons. They bear flesh sons. But you need the ladies to get the flesh sons so that you can bear the spiritual sons. That's what I try to do every day, is bear spiritual sons. I think right now Yehovah is waiting for 144,000 spiritual sons to be born so that he can get the show on the road. And we can get going into the millennial kingdom. But first we got to get sick and tired of where we're at right now. But why is it not good for man to exist separate or alone? Well, I think it's part of the reason why Yehovah made the man to begin with. He was separate and alone. And he wanted, in a sense, a companion. But he knew from personal experience. So he made man a little lesser than Elohim. He made man as an heir, as a son, a spiritual seed to dwell on the earth with him. To possess the earth. The spiritual son possesses the earth because the earth is Yehovah's. Yahweh is all about making his word come to pass. That's what these last days are all going to be about. Making the earth, because the earth is Yehovah's and all those who dwell in it. He is Spirit Elohim. He is the creator of the heaven and the earth. It's got to come back under his authority. The man, and because he commanded the man to be fruitful and to fill the earth, fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth, it was not good for him to dwell alone. Got to fulfill the promise. So he's going to create the woman. But first, he's going to look among the animals before he makes the woman. It's not good. What did he say? And Yehovah said, it is not good that man should exist alone, separate. I will make him an aid suitable for him, a helper compatible for him. Here's some of the other translations. Here, this is an aid. Here's the first word, aid. An etzer, an aid. An etzer. This word nagad, or neged, has the idea of being in front of, the counterpart to. In word study, it calls it a preposition indicating before. Okay, but it's not always a preposition. It can also be a noun or a verb. To tell, to give an account to another. Here's how I envision the aid suitable. Think about a general's aide. The general's aide knows where the general is going to go next. He goes ahead and prepares the place for the general. He anticipates the general's needs. Oh, he likes to have a steak. He likes to have a cup of mocha in the morning. Okay, he anticipates his needs and is ready for when the general comes. So I put, as a general's aide anticipates and sees his master's needs, so does a woman aid or go before her man. I got to remember to keep this high. Proverbs 31 woman rises before her family. Ooh, that's really interesting about the Proverbs 31 woman. I guess I don't have time to go there right now. Here's a few things that some of the other translations put. I was questioning the Etzer Kenegdo. What is this Etzer Kenegdo? I put it, he's an aid, or she's an aid suitable. Here they said, a helper fit for him. Good News Bibles, or God's Word Bible says, she said, or they say, a helper who is right for him. Living literal translation says, a helper suited to him. A helper suited to him are some of the different ways that it's being put together. Now he's going to look for a companion for the man, an aid for the man. Did the dog work? How about the cat? A horse? No. He says, out of the ground Yehovah formed every living of the field. All the living things of the field. That's the kaye. They make it beast. It's not beast, it's the living things of the field. Every bird of the air. And brought them to Ha-Adam to see what he would call them. And whatever Ha-Adam called each living creature that was its name. Okay, who has dominion over the earth? Remember, we saw in Genesis 1, it looked like the man and the woman had dominion over the earth. But it's because we lack the understanding. The women do not have the dominion over the earth. Men do. It's the man who's going to have every living creature. It's the man who was put in the garden. The woman was added to him in the garden. So he is looking for a companion for the man, Ha-Adam, and he looks to every beast of the field, every living of the field. Remember, those are the behemoth kind and the bug kind, and the birds of the air. I guess he didn't even consider a fish because the man doesn't live in the water. Genesis 20. So Adam gave names to the cattle, the behemoth, to birds of the air, to every living of the field. For Adam, now look, for Adam, they make it Adam. For Adam, it does say Adam. For Adam, there was not a helper compatible, an etzer kenegdo. Didn't have one. He looked among the beasts, the cattle, the birds, but couldn't find an etzer kenegdo. Okay, that tells us something. Where is he looking? He's looking at something that's lesser to the man, to be his companion, to be his helper, his etzer kenegdo, his aid suitable. And Yehovah Elohim caused a deep sleep to fall on Ha-Adam. And he slept. He took one of his ribs and closed up his flesh in its place. Then the rib, which Yehovah Elohim had taken from Ha-Adam, he made into a woman. And he brought her to the man. I put, it appears that woman was created from man, the man. Let me fix that. Created from the man in order to care for him. And man was created from the earth in order to care for it. Remember, the woman is not created from the dust, is she? The man is created from the dust. To the woman he said, I will greatly multiply your sorrow and your conception. We're going to talk about this at length next week. In pain you shall bring forth sons. It doesn't say children, it says sons. Isn't that interesting? Does it hurt when you have a daughter? Yes. In pain you shall bring forth sons. Your desire shall be for your man, and he shall rule over you. Now, you know what? There's a lot of ladies out there who have a theology like goes kind of like this. Well, don't you know that was after the curse that he rules over us. And now, because we are in Jesus, we go back to before the curse. This is what we do. I mean, it's completely irrational. She's an aid suitable, not a partner, not an equal. He shall rule over you. You know, in Torah, a woman's Adonai, her master, my master. Whenever a woman talks about my master, it's never Yehovah. Not one time is it Yehovah. It's always a man. Her man, never Yehovah. Did Yehovah say this to the woman as part of the curse? or a reminder. See, I think that we forget. I think this. When he said he shall rule over you, I think he was reminding her that the man is to rule over her. We're going to see here in just a moment, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. Does my hand act on its own? How about my eye or my mouth? No, no, never. This was not a curse, this part about the man ruling over her. Perhaps the pain in childbirth is the perpetual reminder to help her remember, oh yeah, oh, this hurts. Okay, yeah, this is supposed to remind me to obey my man. Isn't that interesting? You know what? I think if I had a downfall in my marriage, it was when my children were born. Isn't that sad? Because that's the point where my woman stopped living for me and started living for those children. Isn't that interesting? Maybe the childbirth pain is to remind the woman that she still needs to stay obedient and aid to her man. I wonder. You know, you always got to build your theories and then test your theories. That's a theory that I think would probably work pretty well. Did the woman disobey Yehovah? Or did she disobey her man? Well, we got to ask the question first. Did Yehovah ever talk to the woman? Well, the answer is no. So where would she have gotten her information from? Her master, her Adonai, the man. Then the rib, which Yehovah had taken from the man, he made into an ish, and he brought her to the man. So here's the man, and here's the woman, or a woman, an ish, an isha. Isha. Sorry, I'm saying ish. He made an isha. He's the ish. The man is the ish. The woman was made out of the rib of Ha'adam, but the man and the living of the field and the birds were made out of the dust of the earth. She's different. Something's different here. Does a woman go into the temple? Does Yehovah ever talk to the woman? Oh, see, we think about the children of Israel, so we think he's giving commandments to the children of Israel. And we include the women as the children of Israel. But we misunderstand the scriptures. And the foundation for those scriptures are right here in Genesis 2 and 3. 23. And Adam said, this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called Isha because she was taken out of man, Ish. Man. Well, let's take a look at this. Then Adam said, this new creation is bone of my bones, flesh of my flesh, an extension of his body. That's what she is. She's an extension of his body. If she's bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh, she shall be called woman because for out of a man, an ish, has this one been taken. This is the literal translation of this particular verse. Man and all the creatures came from the ground, but the woman came from the man. So who is Yehovah talking to when he says things like this? Okay? We read the scriptures and we tend, because of ignorance, really, to think that he's talking to women. But I want you to be a more discerning reader. Let's read some of these things. In the sweat of your face you shall eat bread till you return to the ground. For out of it you were taken, for dust you are, and to dust you shall return. Okay, obviously he's talking to the man, right? Because it's the very next one. He says, then he says to the woman. So that one's obvious. But now let's look at Job. All flesh would perish together, and man would return to the dust. You hide your face. They are troubled. You take away their breath. They die and return to the dust. Can a woman return to the dust if she was never from the dust? She can't, can she? So who are we talking to? Okay, I'm trying to help you understand, dig deeper, and understand on a more foundational level the scriptures. Oh, we have much to see. Who's going to own the land? Who is the property of the man? We're going to see all these things as we go through the Torah. All go to one place. All are from the dust and return to the dust. That's Ecclesiastes. He's not talking to the ladies. He's talking about the men. Here's one more. This is the end of Ecclesiastes. Let's hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear Elohim and keep his commandments. For this is, look what it says, the man's all. Adam's all. For Elohim will bring every work into judgment, including the secret things, whether good or evil. Oh my. Is he talking to ladies? No. No. Fearing Elohim and keeping his commandments is something that men do. Women follow their man. And a woman who will not follow her man, or a woman who has no man? Ooh, where does that leave the woman? She was created to be what? An Etzer Kenegdo. The dog was created to be a dog. The pig was created to be a pig. The horse was created to be a horse. And they all do their dog, pig, and horse things as they were created to do. But the woman, who is created to be an Etzer Kenegdo, is not an aid suitable for the most part in this world. Oh no, she's gone way beyond that. In fact, some women are leading men instead of aiding men. Some women don't have any man in their life. Where's that going to leave them in the last days? There's a reason 7 women are taking hold of one man in the last days and saying, we will provide our own food. We will wear our own clothing. Only let us be called by your name to take away our reproach. What's the reproach? They don't have a man in their life. Well, let's continue. 24. Therefore, a man, here it is, this is man. Oh, and 23 was the first time that he used ish. It says, therefore, and let's see what that is. Is it ish? Yeah, therefore, an ish shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his woman. It says wife. Well, I'm here to tell you there is no word for wife in Torah. Doesn't exist. A man's wife is his woman that he is intimate with. A man can have lots of women, but this is says his woman. Okay, beware of this word wife. Beware of that word husband, because it can throw you off. When we're talking about a husband, we're talking about her man or her Baal. We're talking about his woman. We're talking about his Isha, his woman. They shall exist as one flesh. Ooh, this is neat. They shall exist as one flesh. Haya, exist, become. The woman replaces the covering of her father with that of her man, her ish. When this happens, what did it say? The man shall leave his father and mother. The man shall leave. It doesn't mean he's going to her family. No, 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 no. He's creating a whole new family where he's going to be now the B'nai. The B'nai is the man who has sons and daughters, Banim and Banot. So when a man marries, leaves his father and mother, he doesn't have to marry. He can still leave his father and mother and still become a B'nai. But it's a B'nai that's going to have sons and daughters. He can't do that if he's alone. He can have sons, spiritual sons. Remember, I can have spiritual sons even without a woman in my life. The woman replaces the covering of her father with that of her man. This is the point when the son, becomes a B'nai. Okay? B'nai. It's really not B'nai, it's B'ni. 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 The seed. Israel's seed, Hess seed. B'ni. It's the seed of, is what it says. That's what B'ni means. Seed of. He can be a son, seed of Heth, a son, seed of Esau, or even a son, seed of a righteous man like Noah. In fact, we're all men are B'nai of Noah. We all came from him, didn't we? Okay, not talking about the ladies. They don't have seed. But when we talk about B'nai Israel, we're talking about Israel's seed. These are spiritually born sons, seed of Yehovah. Remember, he said, let Israel go. Let Israel, my son, my firstborn, go that he may serve me. That's what Moses was told to tell Pharaoh. Let Israel, my son, my Bakor. We're talking about males. There are no lady Bakor. Go that he may serve me. And we didn't go until when? Until we kept the Passover and became the Ezra man, because then we were the spiritual sons, and then we fulfilled Yehovah's word and left the land. Well, right now, we're leaving the land before we go. Or before we how should I say it? Right now, we're we're leaving the land and participating in the Passover after we leave the kingdom of our birth. It was a little bit different in Egypt. Once the woman is taken by her man, she disappears in Torah. She's one. Bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. She doesn't exist. Oh my goodness. It's 12:47, but I want to take some time to look and show you what I'm talking about. Here's a topic note that I created called Woman. Let me just go there. WOMAN. Woman. Where is she? Right there. Look at what this says. We're looking for the woman. We already saw it in Torah. In the fourth commandment. She wasn't there. Let's take a look at some of these. I said, who's missing here? She's one with her man, one flesh. She doesn't exist anymore. When a woman says, what about my career? Woman, you don't have a career. Your career is serving your man. Bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh. You misunderstood. You're learning the doctrines and traditions of men instead of Yehovah's word. A woman in her man is her man. So, here's my question. Who's missing here? Then Elohim spoke to Noah and said to his sons with him, saying, as for me, behold, I will establish my covenant with you and your seed after you, and every living creature that is with you, the birds, the cattle, the beasts of the earth, of all that go out of the ark, every living of the earth. Who's missing? Who didn't he mention? The women. He didn't mention Noah's wives or his sons' wives, did he? Here's another one. This is Exodus 12, right when we're leaving Egypt. Then Israel's seed journeyed to Ramses to Sukkot. About 600,000 Gabor men on foot. Besides Tafim, children. A mixed multitude went up also, and flocks and herds, a great deal of livestock. But the woman is not mentioned. Here's another one. Observe the Sabbath to keep it. Remember, who is he talking to? To keep it holy, as Yehovah your Elohim commanded you. 6 days you shall labor and do your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of Yehovah your Elohim. In it you shall do no work. Where's the woman? Here it is. You, your son, your daughter, your male servant, your female servant, your ox, and your donkey, nor your cattle, nor your stranger, the ger, who's within your gates. That your male servants and your female servants may rest as well as you. Okay, a little bit different because it's the 10th commandment or the 4th commandment from Deuteronomy. But still has the same thing. It has the women missing, doesn't it? He says in Joel, talking about the 144,000 servants of Yehovah that are being raised up in the last days. He's talking about what they're going to be like. Listen to what he says. Then you shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, the Ezra men. I am Yehovah, your Elohim, and there is no other. My people shall never be put to shame, and it shall come to pass afterwards that I will pour out my spirit on all flesh. What flesh is he going to pour out the spirit on? Your sons, your daughters shall prophesy, your old men shall dream dreams, your young men shall see visions, also your men servants and your maid servants. For I will pour my spirit out. I will pour out my spirit in those days. No lady. Folks, everywhere in the Torah you will not see the women enumerated. Why? Because they are one with their man. And a Sabbath produce of the land shall be for you, your male and female servants, your hired man, and the ger who dwells with you, for your livestock and for the beasts of your land. All its produce shall be for food. No lady. Here's another one. This is when Achan was stoned. Then Joshua and all Israel with him took Achan, the son of Zerah, the silver and the garment, the wedge of gold, his sons, his daughters, his oxen, his donkeys, his sheep, his tents, and all that he had, and they brought them to the valley of Achor. They're going to stone them with stones. Doesn't list the ladies, does it? Would the ladies be there? Of course, they're in him. So David said to Ittai the Gittite, go cross over. Then Ittai the Gittite and all his men and all his little ones who were with him crossed over. Okay, why am I showing you this, you guys? One flesh. The woman does not exist. It's not about the woman, it's about the man. He follows Yehovah and teaches his women, his sons, his daughters, his male servant, his female servant, and the ger who dwells with him, how to keep the commandments of Yehovah, because they were given to the man, the Ezra man. Here's one more. Now it came to pass, as he finished speaking all these words, that the ground split under them, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up with their households. This is Korah, Dathan, and Abiram, and their households, and all the men of Korah with all their goods. So they and all those with them went down alive into the pit. The earth closed over them, and they perished from among the assembly. But the man's woman is not mentioned because she is he. Bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. The woman is the man. Now, that has several things that are important that we got to understand in that understanding. Because one understanding, remember, leads to other understandings. In Torah, the woman, once given to her man as his property, does not exist. Ooh, you know what? For me to call a woman property does not go well in today's ideas, does it? But look at what it says in the 10th commandment. He says, you shall not covet your neighbor's house. You, who's thou? It's really thou. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's woman. The house and the woman, nor his male servant, nor his female servant, nor his ox, nor his donkey, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. The woman belongs to the neighbor. It belongs to the man. Okay, we've got to work out these understandings. Now, there's one place in Torah where it actually does mention the women. Go figure. It's there. And that is one time in every 7 years at Sukkot. The Ezra men, instead of bringing all their males, bring their women. And they actually enumerate the women here. It says, the men and the women, ha-nashim. There it is. One of the few places that I've found anywhere in the Torah where it actually talks about the women. The nashim. That's the plural form of women. The women, the men, the women, the children, and your ger who is within your gates. One time every 7 years. Well, last verse for today. And they were both naked, the man and his woman. She is his possession, bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh. It says, and we're not ashamed. Now, notice what it does not say. Okay, sometimes what it doesn't say is as important as what it does say. It does not say the woman and her husband. Because if it was the woman and her husband, then he would be the possession, wouldn't he? No, we're talking about Ha-Adam and his Isha. It says the man and his Isha. There is no word for wife. Well, here is some things that really you ought to read in relation to the woman. There is no word for wife in Torah. This is really an important understanding for getting a correct perspective of where a woman stands in relation to Yehovah. We're going to see this even more clearly next week. But if you will take the time, this is a really important one. Creation of the woman, understanding the creation of the woman. Here, let me just shrink this down a little bit so that it fits a bit better. I guess I can do this one. Yeah, okay. So here's the creation of the women links. Creation of the man. There is no word for wife. Okay, this is really important. Husband and wife. Okay, it's not husband and wife. It's Baal and his woman. Oh, my goodness. Baal, the master, and his woman. We talk about the Jezebel spirit and how that relates in these last days. A woman doesn't know her place. Oh, I know I sound like a chauvinist, don't I? But ladies, I love you. I'm trying to help save you. I'm trying to help save your marriage. But save you. Save you. I'm trying to help you get life eternal. You will not get life eternal if you don't learn to become what you were created to be. And if you're going to continue to be a Jezebel trying to lead men, that's not an Netzer Connecto, is it? No. In fact, if you're married to an unrighteous man, a one who wants to go out drinking or go out to dinner on a Friday night, I would tell you, go out to dinner with your man on Friday night. Do what he asks you to do. Be the Netzer Connecto and know that the sin is not on you. The sin is on him. Because you are serving your man. You are laying down your life for his goals, his dreams, his desires. Now, when you do that, ladies, and I've seen this dozens of times, women who have started serving their man, you know what happens? Men start saying, wow, what's going on? My wife is different. When I want to have sex, she has sex with me. She never used to do that before. When I want to go out to dinner on a Friday night, she doesn't argue. She doesn't try to tell me that God said, because God didn't tell you to do anything except obey your man. Like I said, the sin is on him. And in that context, I wrote a series of articles right here called Unequally Yoked. Marriage strife. Can a woman be unequally yoked to her man? Absolutely not. Okay, I call it unequally yoked. Why? Because I want to make this something that people can find on the net. But can a hand be unequally yoked? Can my hand Can my eye be unequally yoked to me? My bone, my flesh be unequally yoked to me? No, it's ridiculous. But I've seen ladies leave their man because he didn't want to keep the commandments of Elohim and she did. Oh, you dummies! What are you thinking? Talk about jumping from the frying pan into the fire. You're in a far worse condition. Now you have no relationship to Yehovah. Well, we're going to talk about all this next week. It's an amazing story, but you can't see it without getting the foundations correct. All right, let's stop here. We did make it through chapter 2. That was really my goal for today. There are some other things that I did want to cover, but I think I'll cover those next week. Really, what I want to talk about was advanced principles from the Word. So I don't want to talk about those right now. So we'll just hide those for the time being, and we'll talk about those next week. They're probably more appropriate for next week anyway. So let's stop here today. Thank you for joining me. I see John came in. Joe's here now. Manuel, Patricia, probably John and Rebecca are here. John and Rebecca. John, I think it was Jennifer. There it is, Jennifer. Yeah. Rick, Terry is probably with you. Great. Scotty. Hi, buddy. And Tom, glad you could make it. Super duper. Okay, was there other people that came in and out during the time, or this is pretty much it? All right. Well, not a giant class, but you know what? Faithful class. People that are here practically every week. I'm so grateful for all of you. And I know there's a lot of you online who are listening to what I say. You know what? I can change your life. Yehovah has revealed things to me that few teachers that I know of have ever heard. They don't know what I know. The role of a man and his woman, the ger and the Ezra. Oh my gosh, those two things alone are so very, very important. They will change your life. They'll give you eternal life. You know, these people who are telling you, believe in Jesus. Folks, Yehovah talks about them in Jeremiah 23. He says, woe to those who destroy, woe to those shepherds who destroy and scatter the sheep of my pasture. You scattered my sheep, driven them away, and not attended to them. Behold, I will attend to you for the evil of your doings. You know what? We need teachers that will bring life to the families, life to the people. I can do it, but you got to listen to what I have to say. And more importantly, you got to do it. You got to follow the word. Let it become life in you. All right. Well, let's call it quits for today. Thanks for joining me. Love you tons. Bye, y'all.